You ever have one of those moments where everything in your life splits clean in half, before and after? For me, it was a Sunday. Sun was soft, air was crisp, and for the first time in weeks, my wife and I weren't rushing anywhere. We were just walking. Kendra was 34 weeks pregnant with our first, already started to drop a little, so the walks helped her stretch, helped her breathe. And me? I just liked watching her waddle beside me, one hand under her belly, other in mine, looking like she was carrying the whole damn world and still managing to smile. We passed mailboxes with perfect paint jobs, lawns clipped like they'd been laser measured, typical suburban pride, and we weren't bothering anyone. Didn't say a word to a soul. Just strolled along that sidewalk, enjoying a little peace before everything was about to change. Then he came out. I didn't hear a garage door. Didn't see him coming. But suddenly there he was, storming down his driveway like we'd just stolen something. Vest with a stitched HOA patch, mirrored sunglasses. Taser on his hip like he was the last line of defense in a war zone no one asked for. His name was Rick McDaniel, self-appointed enforcer of our neighborhood's HOA. I'd seen him around, always barking at kids about skateboards or snapping photos of someone's trash bins being out early. But we'd never spoken. Until that day. "Where's your pass?" he barked, puffing his chest like some Dollar Tree security guard. I glanced at Kendra. She was shifting on her feet, belly tightening like it did when the baby moved, and I said, real calm, "We live here. Just out for a walk." He didn't blink. I asked where your pass is. I kept my voice low, gentle. "Sir, my wife's 8 months pregnant. We're not causing trouble. We're walking." But Rick wasn't hearing words. Rick was seeing control slipping out of his hands. He reached for the taser. I put my hand up, not high, not aggressive, just up, like please don't. "You're making a mistake," I said. And then click. That was it. No warning, no pause. Just a click and the crackle of electricity. I remember the sound first, then the burn, then nothing. Hit the pavement hard, seizing, my body doing things I couldn't stop. Kendra screamed. I remember that clearer than anything. Her voice, raw and high and terrified, shouting my name like she was watching me die. And honestly, for a second, I thought I might. The worst part wasn't the pain. It wasn't even the fall. It was the humiliation, the powerlessness. Lying there with my pregnant wife sobbing beside me, while some man in a khaki vest stood over us like we were intruders in our own damn neighborhood. She dropped to her knees, one hand over her belly, the other trying to touch me without hurting me more. Rick barked at her, told her to stay back like she was the threat. And even through the static still buzzing in my chest, I lifted one arm, just barely. And I said, "Don't touch her. Back away." I didn't yell it, didn't growl, just said it like I meant it. Because I did. That's when the crowd started to gather. Neighbors stepping out on porches. People with phones. Voices started whispering. "Oh my God, that's Judge Braden. Did he tase a federal judge?" See, Rick didn't know. I never led with it. I didn't wear my title on a name tag or throw it around at HOA meetings. I liked being just Aaron, the quiet guy who raked his leaves on Sundays. But Rick had made a mistake, and not just a legal one. He'd crossed a line. Kendra helped me sit up. I could barely talk, my chest still twitching. But I didn't need to say much, because Rick had already handed me everything I needed. By sunrise the next morning, I wasn't in pain. I was focused. I didn't rant on Facebook. I didn't call the news. I called my clerk and filed for evidence retrieval. Cameras, doorbells, anything within 2 blocks. I filed subpoenas by lunchtime, not out of anger, but out of precision. I wasn't going to make noise. I was going to make law. And trust me, there's a difference. Every second of that assault, every movement of Rick's, every twitch of my fingers on the ground, was caught. For angles. 2 with clear audio. No warning. No cause. Just a man looking for control and grabbing a weapon when he didn't get it. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. Turns out this wasn't Rick's first rodeo. 2 complaints already sat in the HOA's files. One where he chased a 15-year-old kid back to his door over a busted light cover. Another where he pulled that same taser on a mom and her daughter because they were loitering in their own driveway. But the board? They swept it under the rug, wrote it off as misunderstandings. Well, they couldn't misunderstand this one. I filed a federal grievance, Title 18, Section 242, Deprivation of Rights under Color of Law. It's a statute written for exactly this kind of abuse. Attached the medical reports, Kendra's OBGYN notes about the stress spike, the elevated risk of preterm labor, and the elevated heart rate. It was all there. Signed. Certified. Unshakable. Then I waited. Not long after, Rick got a thick envelope in his mailbox. Federal seal. Summons to court. 3 charges: excessive force, assault with a weapon, and civil rights violation. He had no idea who I was. Not really. Until he saw my name typed clean across the plaintiff's line, Aaron Braden. And the truth hit him like his own taser wire. I wasn't just a neighbor. I was a sitting federal judge. 20 years on the bench. Published opinions on due process and law enforcement boundaries. And more importantly, I knew exactly how to take a man like Rick apart without ever raising my voice. At the trial, Rick looked like a deflated balloon in an off-rack suit. His lawyer tried to spin it, said he was following protocol, whatever that meant, but nobody was buying it. Not the jury, not the judge, not even the folks in the back row who came for the drama. Then they called me to the stand. I didn't grandstand. I didn't rant. I opened my folder, looked at the judge, and read aloud. It is a federal crime for any person acting under color of law to willfully deprive another of their constitutional rights. And I listed them. Precedents. Statutes. Video timestamps. Audio clips. Kendra's trauma. My bruises. And that moment, the exact one, where Rick stomped the taser wire out of my chest like it was a weed on his lawn. I never looked at him. I didn't have to. Because power isn't about standing tall or shouting louder. It's about knowing where you stand and what you stand for, and letting that speak for itself. The verdict came fast. 2 years in federal prison. Immediate remand. Permanent ban from working in any enforcement role, HOA, private, or otherwise. Rick didn't look angry. He looked small, like someone who'd spent years thinking he was the biggest man in the room, only to realize he was just the loudest. But the real fallout didn't hit until later. Because the courtroom lights shined into every corner of our neighborhood. And suddenly people started asking questions they hadn't before. Why were tasers allowed? Where was the training? What exactly were they paying HOA dues for? 1/3 of the residents filed for withdrawal. 3 board members resigned. An audit uncovered fake maintenance bills, shell landscaping companies, and unapproved purchases charged to discretionary funds. And then came the state legislation. They called it the Braden provision. Mandatory de-escalation training. Body cams on all HOA enforcement officers. Absolute ban on use of force without law enforcement present. A statewide oversight committee. Suddenly, HOAs weren't little kingdoms anymore. They were accountable. And through it all, Kendra, she carried Eli to term. Strongest woman I've ever known. Gave birth to him under morning light, soft music. No fear. Named him after my grandfather, Elijah Braden, the first attorney in our family, who once argued civil rights cases out of the trunk of his car. I took 3 weeks off the bench. Gave 1 interview, local news only. Said my piece. The law exists to protect, not intimidate. If you wear power like armor, you've already forgotten what it's for. That clip made the rounds. Law schools used it in lectures. A few senators cited it in draft bills. I didn't care much for the spotlight. I just wanted the quiet back. These days, Kendra and I sit out back sometimes. Just us and Eli, watching the trees sway, listening to birds. Neighbors walk by slower now. They say hello. Some apologize for staying silent that day. She always smiles and says, "You don't have to fix the past, just do better next time." And they do. I don't talk about Rick much anymore. He's gone. So's the taser. So's the fear. And now, it's just quiet. The kind you earn. The kind you fight for. But let me ask you something. Do you think that was justice? Or did it take too much for people to finally see what was wrong? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear how you see it. And if you've ever had an HOA horror story, or stood up to someone who thought they were untouchable, tell us. You never know who needs to hear it. Like, subscribe if you're into stories where people stand their ground the right way, and I'll see you in the next one.